All right.
Just when you thought it was over, we come back to step on your neck and dribble down your face again.
Ooh.
I don't want to waste any time with this episode. I feel like we have to talk about things before Michael gets to open his mouth and ruin it all.
Oh my god,
That's a very
wow.
fine point, yeah.
Jesus.
No,
I'm salty one
kidding.
episode, and you just immediately got to be like, hold up there.
God? We kind of went through the era of viral videos. Like, we've all experienced it. We're all old enough that, like, viral videos became a thing in our time.
Right.
And then you go to the extreme end of that spectrum, which is the shock value videos. Like, there was that beautiful period of time where you would trick your friends into watching fucked up shit, and I think we talked about that at some point.
Lemon Party?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm talking like the 5 Qs on Google, I'm talking Lemon Party, and then, infamous the 2 girls 1 cup. And then if you had the misfortune of 1 guy 1 cup, which if you don't know what that is, I'm not going to describe it on air, but it's fucking horrific.
Fair enough. Good enough for me.
I'm going to leave that one well alone.
Future me couldn't do it either.
The reason that I bring all of this up, and I guess I'll just trigger warning for everything, and not safe for life content coming up here.
Oh, Jesus.
And that mainly is for Shane's sake, because we have an update on Norm Summerton.
Uh-oh. Please
Why
tell
do
me
you...
it's not
okay.
bad.
I love
me.
that this is the recurring bit where you just want to see how many sharp objects I can drive into my own body by the end of an episode, because I have some.
I think
Spoilers
it's
at 69 times.
I think it's because when something gets to me to the point where I feel sick, I want to see if other people can, kind of like hold me and comfort me and tell me that it's okay.
Okay. All right, you just gonna Tom Segura this son of a bitch all to hell.
Oh,
Well, I mean,
Jesus.
I'm not trying just to plug it over there, but it's like one of the main things I do every single week. Like, it's part of my content that I consume, and it's fun to share it with my friends. And this is the only time during my week now that I get to speak to anybody else. So
I consequently have 2 things to say. I hate Tom Segura. I'm just gonna go on the
no.
record and say that just patently.
Is it because you guys are so alike?
No, oddly enough, but I'll allow you to tell me your terrible story, and then I'll divulge.
Okay. Well, on last week's episode, so I saw this section after we recorded. It's referred to now as the poutine clip, and it is Summerton showing you how to prepare and enjoy French-Canadian poutine.
Yes, and everyone loves a good poutine, except for Johnny Depp's character in Tusk, because it just gives him the worst shits.
I mean, this is akin and as shocking as Tusk.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna just speed through it
All right.
because I feel
All right.
like we have a lot of
Yeah,
mileage.
you seemed like you really wanted to get going today. So.
So Norm does a little twist on the recipe, and he pisses on it and shits on it, and then puts Velveeta cheese on top of it, and it's disgusting because, well, I'm a member of their channel, so I can't see the actual clip because it won't be allowed on YouTube, but they show it blurred out, and they describe it in vivid detail that, like, the cheese doesn't mix, it just bounces off. And then just to really tie it all together and take it home, he eats it.
Okay.
And I'm Michael.
I suppose
I would pay other people so that they could see Shane's face. And Michael too.
if we needed another excuse for me to advocate for the extermination of certain individuals just based on my personal criteria, I think, that says it all. And by the way, by the eternal, I'm so sorry. Behold,
No.
it's the Disinformed podcast, or the Jeremy Corbell podcast, as we are now appropriately labeled, apparently.
I don't wish to behold anything now.
Don't behold. Cover your eyes and shield them.
Behold it.
Behold.
Scrub them with as much Clorox as possible, which someone tells us to ingest. I'm Shane.
I'm John.
And I'm Michael.
And I hate everything on the planet right now.
I just really wanted to color the episode a bit first. You know what I mean? Just really
Well, that's certainly one way to put another complexion on the matter.
Much like I told my wife when she first met me, it's all downhill from here.
We've gone from, titty pig to now shitty titty pitty tig. And, I never, bet you never thought that you would see shit on the tits of a pig. And I hate this man, just on principle. And I'm also now sharing that hatred for Tom Segura for bringing it to me.
So that's why you hate Tom Segura?
No, I hate Tom Segura.
Because
I
remember,
don't actually.
I was going to say hate is so strong. Like, what did he personally do?
Hate is a hell of a motivator. No, I think I've discovered that Tom Segura and I, while there may be some similitude, are dramatically different people. And it harkens back to I don't think that you can ever qualify taste. And we were talking about this. Melissa was watching Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency.
What in the ever-living pig shit is that?
Isn't that some British thing?
It's a BBC show that co-stars Elijah Wood, and I forget who the lead actor is.
Oh, yeah, you're
this
right.
Is
it is Elijah Wood.
Like a
Yeah.
show, or this is reality?
It's a show.
Oh, okay.
And it involves, based on a Doug Adams book.
Oh.
Wherein it's very, it's Britishy. And it has there's a lot of elements of Doctor Who that kind of fall into it, but Dirk Gently is a holistic detective, which means that he does not just study I'm going to paraphrase this really poorly because I watched 2 episodes and then just took a deep pass.
Yeah.
But he studies, all of the simulacrum and all the things that the ephemera surrounding a crime in order to discover who did it, because things just happen to him. So he will magically walk into the person who, committed the act, or he'll walk into someone who knows somebody. So he just kind of stumbles into grace perpetually.
So is it kind of like Will Graham, except without good writing?
It's a comedy, 1.
Okay.
And 2, it is very absurd. And so, again, it's kind of one of those where I think I hurt Melissa's feelings, and it was unintentional, but I started, to use the professional wrestling term, and this will all loop back in again. I started cutting a promo on the show as to why I didn't like it, and then, realized that I didn't need to. Just like, she likes the show and enjoys it. I did not like it. But again, I finally came back around to stopping and went, I'm not ready for it yet. I'm sorry. And, but it took me a second. So I was like, I've really tried to measure and pull back from ever telling someone their opinion on something is wrong if it's a matter of taste, because it just doesn't sync up. And I've seen some Tom Segura stand up, and I don't dig it. It just doesn't hit me the way it hits you. It was just not saying either of us are wrong. It just doesn't resonate with me that way, because I don't find joy in being acerbic that way, of like, I don't intentionally try to piss people off. I still delight when it happens.
Yeah, that's where I liken you to.
Yes, and it's not my primary motivator. It's like, once I see the button, I go, oh, okay, well, let's push it a couple more times.
What was your thing? A monkey with a morphine drip?
Yes, like a monkey with a morphine drip, just bing, bing, bing. So I'm listening to a podcast today of a couple of the wrestling personalities that I typically go to.
As soon as you said wrestling, I knew this was going to happen. Yep. This is what solidified your hatred. It all makes sense now. But for Michael,
what's funny?
I'll let you recount.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Apparently.
This was so fucking funny to me.
Now, what's funny is I have not heard his statement. So what I'm doing is extrapolating from people paraphrasing his statements to a wrestling personality and then getting a response. And what's funny is the personality I listened to is normally really, like, very easily angered and tends to be fairly incendiary. And he said, I don't know who the fuck this Tom Simagura or whoever the hell he is, but what the fuck has he been in? I haven't seen him on any television shows. I haven't ever heard of him. Apparently he's YouTube famous. Wow, that's big. And like just starts running down the list, and I'm like, okay, well. And then he said, but I can't disagree with what he said. Now, to get back to the point, apparently what he said is people who like professional wrestling are, to use his exact word, fucking retards. And if you believe that this thing is an actual contest, it is akin to the Special Olympics, where he's like, yeah, sure, it's like kind of real, but it's not an actual contest. No one's competing for anything. And, you know, and to what John said previously is like where he says he has a marching band in his head whenever he gets somebody pissed off that starts to go up where he's like, I won. I was like, well, he's just being incendiary to be incendiary. Like, I get it.
So that actually was the same episode of the poutine clip, and essentially
he's swinging for the fences, that son of a bitch.
Yeah, so it's really funny because I've never understood Twitter feuds, and I've never like been a part of one that I'm like, oh my god, I know exactly where the inception of the Twitter feud is.
Okay.
And all this last week, it's been all of these wrestling fans and wrestlers themselves like coming after Tom Segura, and it would be kind of like saying like, okay, well, in order to get the context, you need to watch 3 hours, or you can watch 2 content creators clip him. Just like I make the joke, I think I make it almost in every episode here. I'm like, clip that, because anything out of context, you can make them sound really bad.
Mm-hmm.
But contextually, like if you watch that particular episode, the moment it starts getting talked about, you can tell it's a bit.
Yeah.
That he's just beating to death. Like, they're all collectively are beating to death. Mm-hmm. He calls into his production staff, Josh Potter, and he's like, well, you like terrible things, so you probably like wrestling. And Josh Potter's like, yeah, actually, I've been a huge fan of wrestling for most of my life. And like, and they turn into something productive. But there's a lot of bits that have been happening because I think with all the quarantining and things like that, content is a little harder to come by. Like, they don't have normal guests anymore. So I've been picking up over the past 3 or 4 weeks, like these like little threads that they keep bringing back in that are obviously really played out. That being said, I think his bit was hilarious because the dismount is him half-heartedly apologizing, and you can see in his eyes that he knows that he went too far and he's just gonna have to live with it.
All right.
So I respect your decision, and I respect that we can have difference of opinions and taste. Mm-hmm. I think we can both agree that Twitter feuds are hilarious once you have the context.
Agreed. And what's funny is, like, I wasn't offended by his statement, which is, you know, interesting because it's like I don't even like wrestling anymore. It's been a good long while since I really took any joy out of it. It's just
that's kind of what he was getting at.
Right. But, and then I'm in my head, I'm like, if there's anyone out there who truly believes that within the last 30 years, professional wrestling is an actual contest, you're touched mentally. So I can understand what he was saying, but I'm like, who does? I don't know of anybody. There's probably a handful of people who are so far deep down, deep state, who believe, oh, it's still wrestling. That's a contest. Those two men are fighting it out. That now they joke about it all the time. That back in the day, you know, the idea that you can grab a guy by the arm and propel him with enough force across to make him run across the ring, hit a set of ropes, and then come back to you. Well, the guy would take like 3 steps and stop, or just stumble and fall down if you threw him that hard. So it's like, you have to understand some of this is complicit, but now they've gotten to the point where if you've seen a match recently, they have a guy who wrestles with his hands in his pockets.
Okay.
He pretends to be a sloth, so he slow kicks everybody.
I mean, same.
He kicks their shins. Like, it's, you know, just, we've gone beyond the era of being credulity, and now it's just, there's a bit of staged nonsense that happens, and you go, okay, all right, I get it. If I want to get that button pushed, I'll watch UFC and watch people actually punch each other.
Yeah,
so
like, that's what's doing it for me. Before I get to what we were talking about before we hit roll, speaking about like just watching UFC, if you want to see that, I've been getting so much enjoyment still from the subreddit Public Freakouts, and then occasionally, speaking of like seeing things on Twitter, some of my feed gets those fake fight videos, and I did not used to be the person that enjoyed those, but now they bring me legitimate joy. Okay. I'll watch them in bed like before I'm going to sleep, and if Becky is unfortunate enough to be awake, she'll be like, "Are you watching? Those are people fight? What is wrong with you?" A lot. But a lot of wrestling fans were out at Casa a couple days ago.
Oh, yes. They were there in fucking droves.
Because we live in a bullshit state that does not believe in science.
So, like, to further, firstly, we'll contextualize with what we were talking about. So I'll let you weigh in on that first, and then I'll throw in what happened to me today.
Oh no.
Oh, am I telling?
Yeah,
everything
yeah,
that's happened?
you started it, so you
Yeah,
got
I
to
did.
finish it.
Okay. Well, essentially, since we are in a stupid state that ignores science and facts,
Bruh.
a lot of things are being reopened prematurely. And with the contingency of social distancing and preventative measures being put into place and people being responsible and intelligent, which is just not going to happen, especially not in Tempe, Arizona.
Or anywhere in Arizona.
You can't expect much.
So there is a viral viral picture rather now, of people trying to contract a virus.
I mean, they're openly stopping just barely short of spitting in each other's mouths, apparently.
It is a picture of a 2-story bar called Casa on Mill Ave in Tempe, and it is ass to elbow, and that is not me being hyperbolic.
No.
To the point where today, we're recording this on Wednesday, the mayor of Tempe essentially declared emergency, and then is now making it mandatory that any bars that are reopening have to provide, or any places, restaurant or bar reopening, have to provide documentation on how they're being preventative. Which, again, no one's going to enforce. Everything's a fucking joke, and we deserve what's coming.
Yeah, where was it? It was Monday night when I was working, and I saw the news report about that, and the police said that they were still all within their guidelines. I don't know why the police said that, like no charges being pressed or anything like that, but
that is because from the very gate, in this stupid waste of a state, the precautions that have been set down have essentially been like asking you to wear a seatbelt if you feel like it sometime between morning and night. If you feel like it.
Yeah, just at a whim, on the off chance, if you want to be courteous to other people, you can cover your face. And, it just, the sheer lengths to which one has to go to try to find sanity in this state, you almost have to run screaming down the street, just, trying to find any human being who might look at you crossways. Because most of the time, like, oh, yeah, that guy's on fire. Okay. And just go on about their business.
Yeah.
I when I was working and one of the night people came in on Monday night, he literally was like, "Aren't you glad that we have the country back in our control?" And I literally was like, "I don't want to talk about this. I don't."
You're like, I'm gonna make a pizza.
You're like, yeah. I will throw hot cheese all over your face, neck, and chest. And for the first time in my life, it won't be sexual.
He's the same person that I tried explaining who the alt-right was, and he's like, that makes no sense. The fascists were Democrats. And I'm like, okay, then this isn't gonna. I'm done. Yeah, you're right. And then I immediately went to making pizzas and ignored it.
Oh, I tap out.
See ya.
Can't.
Like, no. It's a pass. Gone. Bruh. Oof. Etc. Not hungry.
So
thanks.
Shane, what happened to you?
Yes.
I don't know. Talking into a class, John. So I have been coming into work because we have a collection of not high school. We have a collection of elementary and middle school teachers who have artwork up throughout the building. So they collect art from all of their art classes throughout, the school district that's associated with my campus. And so they have a bunch of elementary school students. Michael.
Oh, no. I didn't know that.
So
I didn't know that there was actual school districts associated with actual campuses. So that's what it was.
They're in close proximity, so it's easy for us to grab them and have them on display here. So.
Okay. Well, I just asked because, like, they have. I'll censor it. I don't care. Fuck you, future me.
Here's a question. Can you find a doctor to help you get your foot out of your mouth? Because, it's going to be a painful surgery. I understand.
They have their own elementary and high schools.
Yes.
And that's what I thought you were talking about. So that's why I was a little confused. And then you said associated.
So essentially, the school district grabs all of the elementary and middle school art teachers, and they all bring in artwork from all their classes, and they have it on display in our library, which is really cool. They get to come to campus. They get the joys of being involved with the university. Then the college students get to see these high school kids' artwork, which is not middle school and elementary school kids. Long story short, too fucking late. The teachers want to collect this artwork because we got it and put it on display before the world went to cheese. And then, since we're at the end of the semester, they want to try to get the artwork back to the kids so that they have it and it doesn't just get caught in a blender somewhere.
Well, shouldn't the kids have been more careful with their belongings if they really cared about them?
I mean, you'd hope so. Because there's a mother looking to scrapbook this shit somewhere that should have extolled the virtues of memories and nostalgia to their small child, apparently.
That shit should have been on the refrigerator 2 months ago. I don't know why it's still in your fucking library. Tell you what.
So... we have now a 3-day time frame to get all of these teachers to come in and collect their stuff. Now, working with someone who works with middle schoolers continually, I knew what I was getting into from the moment that I said, okay, I would be here for this. So I now have for 2 hours a day on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday of this week, I have to just sit out at our loading dock and wait for people to come up so that I can bring them into the building, let them go upstairs, get the artwork, and then come back down to me. And so, for those who do not know our dear beloved Sam, and this is not me intentionally maligning her because we all do this to each other.
God.
Well, if they don't know who Sam is, they haven't been listening to any of the past episodes.
Certainly not. Sam will walk 4 miles, cut her wrists, and then do a somersault to avoid talking to somebody that she doesn't know, rather than just walk up and talk to them. I mean, she'll do anything humanly possible to avoid actually having a conversation with somebody she doesn't know, to the point that she will then start to, in what she thinks now is a clever way, a passable way of trying to goad all the rest of us into doing it. So the bit has now just become that all of us disavow knowledge and just like, yeah, you go talk to him. Go talk to the guy that runs the sound. And she's like, well, why can't you go talk to him?
All right, I'm busy.
I'm bleeding out of my vagina. It's a thing that happens, and I have to go take care of that right now. So it's like, okay. Well, when you're done with that, you go talk to him. I'm finishing it. So it's just she will come up with
me joy.
Anything she can say. Now imagine about 40 of those. Who I now have to corral like cats on fire. So we have a loading dock that accesses our building, which is the easiest way to go in. Instructions were apparently sent to these individuals, go to the loading dock. And the first day, none of them went to the loading dock. They all, saw that it's a loading dock they have to drive down. It's at like a 30-degree incline, and they refuse to drive their cars down it, because apparently that's intimidating. Where I'm like, dear God, if you were in San Francisco, you'd just kill yourself.
I was about to say the same thing. That is the only time in my life I've been scared to be in a car, is in San Fran.
Yeah, I grew up in Havasu. There are routinely hills and driveways that are at least a 60-degree angle. It's terrifying. Like I had to back down somebody's driveway that was at an angle like this, which for the listeners, you're not going to see it. But yeah, that was probably 70 degrees.
Is a good, 60, 70.
So
he's basically holding up like his hand like stop, except
almost
just a
vertical,
little
basically.
Tilted. Yeah.
It terrified the hell out of me, and I actually had to move the guy's mailbox in order to get off, because I couldn't go. It's not even a straight back up. It curved. So I'm trying to do this at an angle in a stick shift automobile. So I'm trying to keep from stalling out and just back down the thing. It was one of the worst experiences of my life. So I don't mock anybody for having those feelings. But again, they would have probably driven 20 miles to avoid driving or backing. And then some of them pulled out and tried to back down the thing in order to get. I was like, you're not loading in industrial equipment. You're picking up children's artwork. Like you can just park wherever you want. And then they boxed each other in. And we had to wait for people to coordinate and come back out. And then a guy tried to back a truck in and parallel park between two cars that would not fit the truck.
Man.
And he almost scraped the car in front of him and then was trying to do like the Austin Powers game of inches, like bop, 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 bop. So this is happening. And finally today I got about halfway through and things were going at a pretty decent clip and I'm moving people in and out. And I'm like, cool. This is going to be great. The sheer disparity of age and experience between these folks, because you have some folks with an exorbitant amount of tattoos, girls that are in their mid-20s wearing stuff, these are teachers, mind you, walking into the building with booty shorts on, where I'm like, if I can see the bottom of your ass cheek, you're an educator. I know we're all on our private time here, but dear God. And then there's an 80-year-old woman walking up with the blue hair. And
Don't
so,
educate me, please.
Yeah.
No.
I'm sure she could teach you something once she took her teeth out. So
Always, it's a bucket list item.
yes, she can make you some poutine. And so finally I get through the mid shift and a couple of the older women walk out, and it's an older, probably like mid 60s woman and a helper who is helping her to kind of carry some of these things. This woman dropped her keys down the loading dock.
Fuck yes. Oh my god, that makes me so happy.
Oh, yes, I'm glad it makes you happy, because then
'cause
I
you
had
didn't
to
have to deal
spend
with it.
25 minutes trying to figure out how to get her fucking keys out of the mechanism, because it's one of those giant extending ramps that
Oh,
trucks have to engage in.
shit.
So she's over there, and I'm trying to help her with a ruler, like a yardstick, to hockey shoot the thing out from between, and there's a giant metal sort of piece at the end. So finally I have to look over on the wall, go over and engage the mechanism to extend it, while this salty
Wrestling fan?
Woo-hoo. Yes. Then it's like trying to reach her arm in. I'm like, wait for it to extend. Don't remove your arm and sever it at the limb. Like, give me a second. And she's trying to like reach. I'm like, stop reaching into the giant metal device, please.
I just feel like there's no pleasing you. I mean, like, it's either you want... you can't have them dismembered, and you can't have them struggling. Like, what do you want?
Here's the thing. If I could have killed the woman outright, at this point, I may have thought about it.
So I'm not commending... I'm not woohooing her dropping it down because it means you have extra work.
Right.
I'm woohooing it because on my walk-in, like, the back door at my work, like, on the... in the parking lot, there is a sewage access point, and the hub or the lid's been removed for I don't even know how long now, so it's just a bottomless pit, like probably slightly bigger than the circumference of a can.
All right.
And just big enough that you could drop something down it. And every single time I'm walking into the shop with my keys in hand, I pass over it and I think, oh, that's one more day that I didn't accidentally drop my keys into oblivion.
Yep.
So it's more like me being like, whew, that didn't happen to me, but it's hilarious when it happens to somebody else.
Yeah, it was fun. Luckily, we were able to get the keys out and save everything from being super tragic, but yikes.
I just don't know how you're allowed to... So there's no children involved, because you're not allowed to be around children.
Yes. Well, due to all the murder. I really did have a thought through the course of the day, not to get too morbid here, but like as one of the, particularly the underdressed teacher walked in, and she was really skittish about me for some reason, like she was very...
She could see the hunger.
Apparently. So she's walking in and I'm like, I'm not that guy. I'm years beyond. I'm a much older man now, so I don't care anymore.
I served
went on
my
about
time.
my business. So, but as she's walking past me, like she's doing that, like, you know, really mindful of where I am at all times. And I'm thinking, I'm wearing a mask because I'm trying to be respectful since I've got a girlfriend with lung issues who I'm, you know, so I'm doing full lockdown. I'm wearing gloves. I got the mask on. I'm doing all this stuff.
Good.
And I was like, you know what? This would be the perfect time to start a murder spree.
Yeah.
I mean, really, if you think about it, because the whole of society is walking around in face masks and gloves, I'm basically just a walking ambiguity murder machine right now. So you could get away with almost anything. It's like, well, who did it? It was a big masked guy.
Right.
Good luck. I mean, all witness accounts are just going to be shot to shit at this point. So I'm going to start killing people next week. I've decided this is the plan.
And just to prove that I do this every episode, clip that.
By the way, birds are lies.
Oh, they aren't real. No.
And so was that statement. I started killing people last week. I'm not going to wait until next week to do that.
Yeah, you weren't waiting for everything to open.
No, he's not. He's not just going to do it when it's fashionable. He's going to be a trendsetter. So
I'm going to start by setting up a post at Casa and
like,
just
oh my...
randomly grabbing people.
My God, Shane, that's an awesome blood
just
spatter mask that you're wearing.
Thank you.
You're enforcing quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
Enforcing quarantine
with my fists.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the mask wearing. I have mine coming in tomorrow. I think is when it arrives. I haven't been really out, so haven't really had a need, but my main joy is that finally my mouth will be covered so I can mouth fuck yourself to people without them knowing.
Oh, you need to have your mouth covered when you do that?
No, I mean, the only people that I've really mouthed that to are children, and they're not going to tell because if they do, I'm going to break their tiny kneecaps. So
I was like, yeah, I just say that outright to children. That's why I can't be around them.
well, that
so,
in the court order, but yeah.
So you're... Listen, judges are not as lenient in this state as they are in Wisconsin, apparently, if making a murder's to be believed.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, I thought you were going to reference some other topical stuff, and I'm like, nah, we're not doing that.
No.
Well,
Attorney Generals.
What happened to your face, John?
Oh,
yeah. Got in a fight with a lawnmower.
Oh my god! And you guys,
I don't know.
Who's sponsored by Manscaped?
Michael deep stated my dad joke from last week, but he gets away with this bullshit.
I'm gonna go ahead and you can say your joke, John. Just for those who are.
I don't even remember it. I don't even care anymore.
You were talking about people being sick who were associated with my university, and you said if someone were to get that sickness, would it be called a staph infection?
Oh.
Oh,
I stand by it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I stand by that joke.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, see, we go with it. So, yipes.
So the official line that I've been using is everything in life is a joke right now, so I've just decided to partake. So I randomly just and Shane, you kind of motivated me. I was like, I haven't been babyface in a long time, and then yesterday I did rock the mustache, and then
it was beautiful.
Then I saw what I looked like when I wore a hat and glasses with a mustache, and if I remember what Becky said correctly, it looks like the possibility of you killing somebody is very high.
I think it looks like your reservations for a table at Casa were at 7:00.
Yeah. And I don't know if I said it to you guys in the chat that I sent it, but I was going for the disappointed dad who's an attorney or an accountant. Like disappointed accountant dad look.
Okay.
And it was very effective, but every time I saw myself in the mirror, I was like, this is not okay. And the main reason it's not okay is because when I go down to just a mustache, I look more like my father than I am comfortable being.
Okay. I thought you were going to say when you go down on Becky with a mustache.
No, I mean, I've had a mustache. I mean, the mustache is there for forever, so I mean, I've collected.
I was going to say, the flavor saver's in full effect.
Yeah, left side is for beer suds and right sides are for fun suds.
Oh, I see. Putting that playground near a sewage drain at this point. Yeah.
I just thought the God would be a better planner,
You'd assume. Well, we are now at least 33 minutes into an episode.
Well, Michael said he wanted this to be a 3-hour episode, so we're trying.
I was joking. That wasn't a challenge.
So we're gonna get there.
We might. I'm glad I cut some things out.
To quote one of Shane's favorite movies, oblige him.
Indeed. Now, the funny thing is, though, before we get too far afield, I'm going to take from the text conversations. It's funny. We've gotten to the point where I feel uncomfortable having conversations with you outside of the podcast because I feel like we have so much good material that we need to just save and clip it because, I mean, I don't want to waste good jokes on our real world phenomena if we're not running tape. So as I looked at your picture and then my picture, I was like, we are 2/3 of the way into the Disinformed podcast brings you Desert Heat, starring Timothy Lone Cactus and Kenton Eldorado. So now all we need is Robert Greer's mustache picture, because we look like a bad box for 70s pornography with you and me in a mustache.
I give you my blessing if you, because you do the cover art for each episode. Yes. If you take mine and find a picture as a third and make a little collage, I'm okay with it for this week.
Okay. Well, we'll find some way.
Or somewhere down the road.
Yes.
The picture is yours to do with what you want. Hopefully,
now, I will say, you and I turning into a country duo called Vicious and Delicious still sounds like a fun touring combination for me.
Yeah, and what's real I'm down. I'll bring the mustache back because I was about to say, like, that's the beautiful thing. It's gonna grow back. Speaking of growing back, Shane is back to 100% normal, and it's only been a week.
Well, it's been 2 weeks technically.
This is happening to me more
I've
often than I
trimmed
care to
this
admit.
already, so yeah, we're back to me trying to maintain.
Yeah, Michael, you're looking like Mr. Wilson, so I can't see your facial hair.
It is not pretty.
You still look like a hobo, yeah.
Yes.
In
yes.
fact, you look like Jeremy Corbell's little brother.
Ouch. You know, there's lines, and I feel like you finally gone.
Did some?
You've crossed one. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Out of everything else you said,
well,
this
Michael,
is the one.
You are about 25% more coherent than Jeremy Corbell.
I
not
definitely
very
feel
coherent.
that. Well, last week I was definitely on that level.
Yes.
Yeah, are you feeling
This
better?
week, I did not work today. I spent most of the day. Actually, I spent most of the day transcribing more My Immortal. So I'm now up to chapter 17.
So you are feeling super intelligent.
Oh yeah, I just want to go to Hot Topic and shop and I don't fucking know, slit my wrists and
Choke somebody out.
Listen to Linkin Park and maybe fuck Draco or something.
Well, hey, we live in Arizona, so I'm pretty sure that Hot Topic is open, so you can probably do that.
Before you get your reservation at Casa this
Oh
evening.
my god. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, my Immortal.
Oh my Satan.
Oh, my
well,
sweet Satan.
So
I
we
guess-
actually do have a topic. Oh wait, do you have something else to say, or are we
No, I
gonna
was-
wait until the first hour?
I was gonna Sigourney segue and say, well, now that we're already almost 40 minutes in, we might as well talk about what you have
shit.
prepped for us.
So there isn't really a specific title to this, but I've been calling it, based off of the Wikipedia page, the Norwegian heavy water sabotage.
So basically, you want to talk to us about purification filters. So
Yes.
reverse osmosis is a thing. We know this. That's why we're in a desert right now.
You
Is
got to
where-
make the water forget. That's how you can make it clean.
You cannot make the water forget.
The water always remembers.
fucking
It's-
remembers.
It's not the best or exact science, but it's getting there. Advances in technology, we're able to do some pretty big damage to that brain. Fuck.
I
brain
was
damage to
watching.
water.
I was watching Doctor Who this week. That has been my new quarantine protocols. I started over with I recently watched the Eccleston season, so now I'm on the.
Ooh.
So I'm on the.
Did we have this conversation?
We did.
Okay.
Yep.
I wasn't sure if we did on camera or not.
Nope. So we weren't on camera, but we did record it. It is on an episode. But so now I'm into the Donna Noble segment of the 10th
Ooh.
Doctor. Yes. And I'm enjoying it immensely. But when we were still back in the Rose Tyler initial season with David Tennant, they had the I think it was called like school reunion, where they go into, there's a group of aliens that have taken over a school and they are feeding the children chips that are in their own oil. They begin the introduction to the Doctor in that episode is him teaching physics to this group of elementary kids, and he starts by walking in, and I was going to videotape it and send it because it reminds me of what it would look like, or it's what I envision Michael teaching would look like, because he walks in and goes, physics. Yeah, okay, so I guess we're going to start. Physics.
I wish I was that cool. Nah.
So,
maybe when I'm tenured and I don't have to give a shit about like convention or anything like that, maybe, but
Don't you mean when you're tenured?
yes.
All right. Well,
Sorry,
there we go.
I misspoke. Yeah.
My ham fist.
So you were saying about water,
soft water. Yes. Bullshit. This is me desperately trying to stop Michael from speaking.
The water is always hard. Because it
am
always remembers. So essentially the whole idea is I'm gonna give you a little bit of a physics lesson. Trust me, it's not as complicated as you think, even though we're talking about nuclear fission.
Physics.
Trust me, I will explain it like I'm 5. I literally sat and thought I probably put about like 5-6 hours of effort into this episode.
Please don't explain it like you're 5.
Actually,
it's gonna be-
do the. I was making a Reddit reference because John understands the reference.
Oh, does he?
What's
Yes. Get out of here. Sorry, I didn't think that you had the mental acuity of 5. I was explaining it like you were 5. There's a subreddit called r/.
Don't start. Don't start putting explanations on top of your explanations. Jesus Christ. If we start
He wasn't helping.
If we start
So-
exponentially dividing your explanations again, I'm going to put a bullet in my brain on camera.
Let's paint the picture, and then Michael's going to go down the center lane. So Shane, you and I, essentially, we are going to be the bumpers.
Okay.
And if this is bowling, Michael's topic is the bowling ball, and we're going to make sure that it stays within the lane.
Okay, we're just going to zigzag it back and forth between us.
Wow. I do that once on one episode.
I
do that for
differ. I've got at least of the 40 we've done. There is more than one, my friend.
Okay.
Let's not lie to each other here.
Well, that's the point.
So, yes. And actually, that's a good point, too, as well. There are, because I made sure to write it up at the start, there are 5 lies in this.
And also very important for me to point out, since I have neglected in my duties here,
Please.
For those of you unfamiliar with the premise of the podcast, what we do here is occasionally, every other episode, we will dive into an esoteric or obscure topic, and we will elucidate that topic to one another. And whilst we are explaining said topic, it is incumbent upon the 2 co-hosts not presenting the topic to try to figure out what the lies are that are embedded by the presenter or host of this current episode, which is Michael. So Michael is going to talk to us about some hard water here, and he's going to lie, and we're going to try to figure out what those lies are. And according to Michael, there are, count them, 5 bloody lies. So this is going to be entertaining. Yes.
And I'll even specify about where they are. So I've divided this into 3 parts, one of which is the basic physics, won't take long. The lead up to the main espionage-like mission, and then the espionage-like mission, which wasn't an actual operation. I just called it the sinking of the SF Hydro, I believe it was called. Yes. So there are 2 lies before that sinking, and 3 lies during said sinking, just to give you guys as much, because I'm quite confident about some of them, not because they're hidden. It's not numbers. I'm not like, it was actually 96 instead of 66 or something like that. Because a little preface, I have been listening to a lot of the older episodes, and I've been trying to learn from those mistakes that I've made. I won't say any other mistakes that other people made, because I won't.
It's mainly because I don't care and I won't learn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, with that in mind,
I have a sinking feeling.
Yes. Stay hooked on that feeling. It'll keep you afloat. We'll all float down here. So,
How
the concept of...
No, let it go.
I'm
Bumper 1 to
Don't
bumper
hold it
2.
back anymore. Don't hold it back anymore. The concept of... The concept of nuclear fission is actually not that old. Especially when we're looking with the time that we're actually talking about, which is World War II. A man by the name of Enrico Fermi, who was an Italian physicist, he originally, he toyed with the idea while he was bombarding uranium with neutrons in 1934. Okay, not bombing, bombarding. I jumped the gun there.
This is gonna be fun.
Okay, so the evidence of nuclear fission was discovered 4 years later. Okay, so this was 1938, so right before World War II. Okay, and when we actually, because I want to do more parts about World War II and specifically the physicists and stuff that occurred around this time. So we'll see Enrico Fermi in later episodes. But also the whole idea is that 1938 was about when different countries were starting to, instead of publish their research for everyone to see, they were being more secretive, especially when dealing with stuff that had particular weapons grade, uses to it, specifically uranium. Okay. News of that discovery of nuclear fission, which I will discuss in a minute, spread quickly among physicists, and it was realized that if chain reactions could be controlled, fission could be a great source of power. Or if the chain reaction could not be controlled, it can lead to something of an explosive quality, ergo a bomb. So, jumping into the physics, nuclear fission is a physical phenomenon wherein an atom with a large mass. So when we talk about atomic mass, it's protons and it's. So I don't know why yes. Especially uranium is like 4 C's here.
Can you describe this as like two people in a relationship rather than an atom?
I can explain it in terms of like an orgy. So if you think of a proton, which is a positive particle, and a neutron, which is a neutral molecule, or whatever, molecule, particle, whatever. Essentially, an atomic weight, an atom is built, the center of an atom, the nucleus is built up of those. So when they interact, you can think of it as like sex or something.
Like dicks and pussies?
Sure.
Okay.
Whatever helps you sleep at night.
I can see why you enjoyed Immortal, if this is, the way that you look at sort of romantic material.
Yeah.
This is what he jacks off to.
Oh, Draco.
Oh.
Be my neutrally charged particle.
He put his thingy in my you-know-what, and we had sex.
No, this is actually helping my comprehension, so, yeah.
Good.
So essentially, all atoms are made up of protons and neutrons at the center.
Yes.
When you get a lot of them together, so the heavier elements like uranium, lead, everything after lead in the periodic table, so radium, etc., they become unstable, okay, and they can undergo fission, where they split into smaller pieces. So think of it as like those chocolate oranges that people like. I like them. They're what? Why are you smiling?
No, I just really like when you like things. So.
Oh no, I was talking about Shane. He was about ready to laugh or say something. Probably derogatory.
I'm desperately just trying
bumpers.
to...
Bumpers,
yeah,
Shane.
We're working to keep you going here.
Fine. Okay, all right. Well, I was trying to explain it like John was 5.
We got it.
Okay,
chocolate oranges.
So 5,
they can,
you can break a piece off of the chocolate orange and...
Yes. Okay. So this act of fission, not fusion, fission,
yes,
releases a lot of energy because the act of keeping stuff together, of holding stuff together, it takes a lot of energy to hold things together, right? Like you can even think of it as like if you hold two magnets that are together, like it takes a lot of energy and effort to do that, and when you release them, then it releases a lot of energy. Okay, and that's the whole idea of why radioactive elements are so dangerous, because even a small amount of them, they're constantly undergoing fission and producing a lot of photons, which is the radioactive element radiation, etc. Okay.
The easy way that I'm picturing it is like something coming into the atmosphere. So you think of like an asteroid that has its own central structure as it's coming in. If it's catching fire, the pieces of it that are breaking off are also on fire. So each one of those things is a destructive element in and of itself. And if so the act of it breaking up helps to dissipate some of the energy. At the same time, all of those things still are deadly in and of themselves. So.
Yeah, that's an apt metaphor. I like it. Or analogy, metaphor, I don't know which.
We'll play it either way.
Yeah, no,
okay.
that's an apt description. I like that.
I'm with you.
So this wasn't necessarily explored at the time, the idea of how dangerous radioactivity was. And you can look up the person that kind of discovered radioactivity, Mary Curie, and then I don't remember her husband's name, but they were essentially like that. Their research into radioactivity concerning radium, you can't actually physically touch their papers because they're still so radioactive.
And it caused them to die from having researched it, right? Because they were not protected as they were doing so.
Yes.
Right.
You can even physicists around the time of World War II, a lot of them died of some sort of cancer. I'll list 4 here. Irene, this is French, so I'm going to butcher it. Julio Curie? Curie?
Yeah, you nailed it.
Yeah, sure. That was Marie Curie's daughter.
Okay.
She died of leukemia. Enrico Fermi, the person I mentioned earlier, he had stomach cancer. Richard Feynman, my idol, who I'll eventually talk about at some point, he died of a form of cancer called liposarcoma, which is a cancer of the fat cells in the soft tissue, and Albert Einstein died of brain cancer. Okay, so
is that bullshit?
What?
What is Einstein dying of cancer?
Yeah.
Damn.
I'm proud. No, I'm proud.
You and I were on the same wavelength there, Watkins, because both of our eyebrows peaked at the same time. It was like,
No, that was good.
He was
I'm
he
proud.
was a patent clerk, so I don't think he would have been functioning around uranium.
Yeah,
but...
and life is ironic, but not
That's
not
also
that
a good
ironic.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I wanted to drive that point home. No, he died of an abdominal aortic aneurysm, and I practiced saying those words over and over again to make
I
sure
can
I
just
said
see
it right.
you manically in your just dirty bathroom
Abdominal aortic stabata.
as you brush
Aneurysm.
off like one of the creatures that crawl out of your shower drain.
Oh my God, it's not that dirty. But I wanted to say the brain cancer because when Albert Einstein died, the person that was performing the autopsy removed his brain without consulting his family because he wanted to examine what made him intelligent over everyone else.
Okay.
So essentially, he had like 2 PBRs, and he's like, "Yeah, well, I've
How
got
the
the means."
fuck did he work? Yeah,
No,
exactly.
it's Leonardo DiCaprio from Django.
Oh fuck, yeah.
If you study the impressions made in the skull by Mr. Einstein's brain, you can surmise that he was Jewish.
Okay. The rate of this radioactive decay, or fission in our case, increases drastically when an atom captures a nearby neutron, especially an energetic neutron. However,
If it's
like
Jimmy Neutron, would it be very energetic?
got a blast, yes.
Well played.
That's what I say all the time.
All right, Tom Segura, calm down.
However, like the difference in trying to catch a bullet or a butterfly, the speed or energy of said neutron makes a difference. If a neutron is highly energetic, as is the case during a fission event, then it's less likely that a nearby atom will catch it, right? However, if there is some sort of material, a moderator, if you will, something that moderates, right, that steals the energy from the neutron without absorbing it itself, it will slow down the neutron, making it easier for the radioactive atom to capture it and undergo fission itself. Okay? So that is honestly the basic physics of it. Things that are quote unquote radioactive are not necessarily stable, and they can break down into smaller atoms, releasing a lot of energy. They can also capture neutrons, which will accelerate that process, but they need to be slower neutrons, or else the chance of them being caught is reduced. And that's where heavy water comes in. Heavy water is actually known as a great moderator. So what it does is the neutron will bounce off the heavy water molecules, and the neutron itself will lose a lot of energy in this process.
And the water will remember.
Mm-hmm.
And hold a
And it will
grudge.
slow down, and the radioactive material will catch it.
Think
right?
of it
So-
like what we call it, I forget what it's called, the gel that you utilize, ballistics jelly that they use to slow down bullets.
Yes, exactly. That
Okay.
exact same idea in that it's trying to prevent the yeah. So that is actually how we can achieve a chain reaction in some methods of producing energy. If one atom undergoes fission and produces, say, 3 individual neutrons, but none of them are captured by surrounding atoms, nothing happens. But if for every event like that, 1 or 2 neutrons gets captured by nearby atoms, and then they undergo a fission event, we get a chain reaction. Okay?
Okay.
Excellent. Okay, so the only other thing that I will mention is the idea of heavy water. So heavy water, or water in itself, is H2O, right? 2 hydrogen, 1 oxygen. Okay, simple enough. Now, there is an isotope. Do both of you know what an isotope is?
It's the Springfield baseball team.
That is actually true, and it's actually named for the same reason, since it's around a nuclear power plant and all that stuff. Yes. An isotope is essentially the same kind of element, but just has different number of neutrons in it. So it's the number of protons that kind of dictate what element you're looking at. But it can have different forms of different numbers of neutrons. That's why you can, if you maybe have heard carbon-14 and carbon-12, stuff like that. Essentially, you can add more neutrons to an atom, and it might make it more radioactive or more unstable, right? Which is where the fission comes from. Now, there is a form or an isotope of hydrogen called deuterium. It's essentially, instead of a proton, which is a hydrogen, it's a proton and a neutron. Okay. That extra neutron just apparently makes it more able to moderate neutron stuff, essentially. So, dumbing it down, science.
Yeah, that's basically
Okay.
the filter I'm hearing all this through.
German.
Yeah. Yes. Ugh. So speaking of German,
Bless
when
you.
Nazi Germany, thank you. When Nazi Germany investigated the production of an atomic bomb, a range of options was identified. I won't bore you with the details of the other options, only
Well,
because I just don't want to give you more.
Step one was find the spear of Longinus and then use that to stir up all the particles, and then you could run with that.
That sounds like the plot of an Indiana Jones movie.
Or
I don't think
Hellboy or the Constantine film. Actually, that was the plot of the Constantine film, was the pursuit for the spear of Longinus. So
I don't recall that. That's interesting.
What's a
Yeah.
I love that
what's
movie.
a Longinus?
So the spear of Longinus, for those unfamiliar, since I might be speaking to someone who's not a Reformed Catholic here,
Give me the Bible lesson.
it is the spear that was purported to have pierced Christ's side as he was dining, and then it turns it into a dining. Did I say when he was dining?
Yeah,
Yes.
when he went to Applebee's after
When he
they
was-
reopened in Arizona.
Christ went up to Casa and hung out with a bunch of people because he's like, I can cure all you motherfuckers. It's fine.
And someone stabbed him because he's like 6 feet, fucker.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
not going to cure the kid with cancer, but he is going to save the dumb frat boy with COVID. So
Jesus. So it was the spear that pierced the side of a dying Jesus Christ, and as such, it became a sacred relic afterwards. And like the Ark of the Covenant and other things that are purported to have a spiritual energy in them, the Spear of Longinus, apparently, according to that film, would make the person who has it, how should we, I just totally
Very
lost the word.
horny.
Yes, it'll
Yep.
make you so horny you'll fuck everything that moves. No, you're basically...
Any hole.
Son of a bitch. I cannot come up with the word for this. You're impervious to everything. You're immortal. You can't be
Invulnerable.
killed. Yeah, thank you. There we are. So,
I got you.
long story
I'm
short,
usually
too
on
late.
the other side.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
This is the joys of me dealing with teachers. What do you know? I got another one talking to me right now, so my poor brain just...
Sorry.
Let's do it. So the Germans...
Yes, yeah. I will mention, though, that if there is enough interest in said topic of other options, I can repurpose an old script from a previous podcast to make it more fun and interesting, and I can present that later.
Okay.
But anyway, the approach that they chose was to make plutonium-39, right? 239, plutonium. To make weapons-grade plutonium.
Yes,
okay?
and, you could build a bomb out of used pinball machine parts, like Doc Brown.
that is
You
canon.
don't just...
Well, you also need uranium from the Libyans, which is how he got in the hole.
No, the plutonium is what he got from the
Fuck,
Libyans.
you're right.
Yes.
The plutonium.
You don't just walk down the street to a store and buy plutonium.
like, totally.
But anyway, so you can't just that's a good point. You can't just go out and buy plutonium. You have to make it from uranium. Okay. So heavy water had
If
been
you
demonstrated.
do, you'll clean it up.
Hopefully. Heavy water at this point had been demonstrated as an effective moderator for producing plutonium.
Okay.
Okay. A heavy water, I don't need to say that. I will say, in normal water, there is only one deuterium atom for every 6,400 hydrogen atoms. So essentially, heavy water is very, very rare. Okay. There is only, at this point in time, during World War II, there was only one place that was really, that specialized, okay, so there is I'm trying to find the best way to word it. In normal water, there is only one deuterium atom for every 6,400 hydrogen atoms.
As you've just said.
An analysis of residues from the Vermork hydroelectric plant, which is a plant specializing in creating ammonia, located near the town of Rjukan, Norway.
Okay.
It showed a hydrogen to deuterium ratio of 48. So when you go from 6,400 to 48, yes, you can create more deuterium molecules through the process that creates ammonia.
Now, the general process here is that they are creating heavy water. They're not just finding it out in the world. They're synthesizing it.
It is a byproduct of the process that they would use to make ammonia.
Okay. All right. Now I'm with you.
Yes. So they, once they figured that out, they actually expanded the plant to start producing heavy water for scientific purposes.
All right.
Okay. And that is That is the extent of the science.
And if we've proven anything about the Germans and the military-industrial complexes, they will do that a lot.
Yes. So, French I already mentioned that. So, French research also figured out that plutonium was heavy water was very useful for plutonium purposes. So, the French military intelligence in 1940, before the invasion, directed agents to remove the water supply from this plant because this was the only plant in the world that produced heavy water in Norway.
Wow.
Okay. Yes. The plant, which was owned by a company called Norsk Hydro, okay, the general director of that company agreed to lend the heavy water to France for the duration of the war. Wow, the strokes. Noting that if Germany had won the war, he would probably be shot.
Now, when they say they're going to lend it to them, so they're taking heavy water, they are now trying to, synthesize plutonium, and then they're just going to send it back to Norway, like, here's your water back.
So the whole idea was that French intelligence just wanted to make sure that Germany didn't get their hands on it.
Right.
Germany had originally reached out to the plant before the invasion to try and purchase all the heavy water before. The plant refused, even after asking, because they asked the German scientists what they were using it for, and they said, we're not telling you. So he was like, no. Then when
I was more, I think, quibbling with the... I was focusing on the word loan, and I don't know why, but they decided they would loan them the water or lend them the water for the duration.
The other place that I had read it, because I got my information from two sources, one Wikipedia and one a book, which they're both in the show notes.
Gotcha.
They'll be shown. The other one was that they were selling the water to France for no money. They were essentially giving it to them. Probably in the contract it was a lend, but whatever. Yes, yeah. Because I did think that was a little weird. It's like, this is a used thing. It's not, a reoccurring substance.
Right.
So it's like, oh yeah, you can just give us the spoils. It's like, yeah, we want to lend you our condoms.
Right.
Just send it back when you're done.
And, a lot of those northern European countries weren't as embroiled in the activity because they have, a little body of water separating them, which you'd think that would have lent Great Britain a little more assistance, but not the case. Anyway, we have digressed. I'm sorry. So, go on.
No, you're fine.
So the Germans had reason to get their dander up.
Yes. And France got the water. They were able to transport it out of Norway to Scotland, and then back to France, which, considering what happens later on in the year of 1940, is a little awkward.
Okay.
So, Norway was invaded in April 1940. Norsk Hydro, specifically that plant, was a prime objective during the war, and there was heavy fighting around that town, the town of Ridiculousness. It was the last town in southern Norway to surrender, which surrendered about a month later in May. Okay.
And they were invaded by the Germans.
Germans,
okay.
Yes. The German. Oh, yes. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
For those that aren't 100% certain with the history, in 1940, Germany pretty much invaded everywhere that, even thought about, was in spitting distance of Germany.
Just on the off chance someone got confused and thought the French started invading anything other than a, baguette shop.
Yeah,
baguette.
Exactly. So
baguette.
In that year, they invaded Denmark, which I also have a cool story about that I'll say in another episode involving another Danish physicist.
I love Danish.
Niels
They're
Bohr.
very tasty.
Yes. That they also invaded Norway. They also invaded France. Okay.
Amongst many other places.
Yes, but specifically in this time.
Yes.
At April and May 1940. Okay. So when France was invaded, which was later in May, so May 1940, the French nuclear scientist Frederic Julio Curie, the husband to the aforementioned Irene that I mentioned earlier, took charge of the heavy water and originally hid it in a vault and then moved it to a prison. He then later moved it to a Bordeaux. Yes. Where its research papers and most of the scientists that were involved with the whole heavy water nuclear program in France, they boarded a ship, a British ship, and fled during the Dunkirk invasion, which is essentially when the French lines fell. This is where the idea that France always surrenders.
Yes. Man, these are some pretty wide bumpers.
When the lines broke, they broke hard.
Yes.
And there was a massive evacuation in the northern part of France where some 200,000 people fled.
I'm so turned on right now. Massive evacuations.
Yes. Okay, so invasion efforts. All right, so in October of 1942, so this is the first operation, Operation Grouse, okay? The Combined Operations Headquarters, so I assume the Allies, began operations to destroy the Vermork plant, okay? There were 2 operations. First, Operation Grouse would drop a number of Norwegians in the area as an advance force, okay? When they were in place, a party of British engineers would be landed by military glider to attack the plant itself in Operation Freshman, okay? On October 19th, 1942, not 1492.
I mean, Columbus could have been trying to attack this plant. We don't know.
He is a piece of shit.
Jesus Christ. A 4-man team of Special Operations Executive, SOE, trained Norwegian commandos parachuted into Norway. Since they had to ski a long distance to the plant from their drop point in the wilderness, I think it was something 200 plus miles.
I was going to say, we have to bring Norwegians to Norway? We got to bring sand to the beach?
They had to be trained in Britain.
Yes, because they're a part of this. Yes, British operations.
Yeah. There's your hole in the logic. I retconned it. No. Considerable time was allotted for Operation Grouse. The British were suspicious because the Norwegian team were delayed in contacting them. They had been dropped at the wrong place, however, and had gone off course several times.
Imagine
the secret
that.
Question, yes. The secret question, which was sent over radio, I assume they didn't specify, was, what did you see in the early morning of that day? The grouse team replied, 3 pink elephants. The British were ecstatic at the success of this operation, and the next phase of the operations began.
So they were ecstatic that these people were delivered to the wrong place, got turned around, severely confused, showed up, and then finally got the appropriate log line of, we saw 3 pink elephants this morning, and that got them excited.
Yes.
Something to be said for British intelligence, I suppose.
When you're grasping at straws, any straw will do.
Yes.
Yes.
When you're being
indeed.
bombed back to the Stone Age on a nightly basis, I imagine you're not really making rational decisions.
Man.
On what the fuck was that?
That was
we're on a Hateful Eight camp here. Yeah.
Oh, okay. On 19th. I'm reading so I should have restructured it and wrote the dates how Americans write them.
Yes.
Where it's month, date, year.
Right.
Because they're recorded as date or as day, month, year.
And this is why you're not narrating My Immortal right now.
Oh no, I listened to my reading of the worst fan fiction earlier this morning, and I'm like, I'm so glad I made Shane do that. He's making it more interesting. Anyway, on the 19th of November, 1942,
my birthday.
Operation Fresh. Wait, really?
Mm-hmm. I mean, not
Oh,
1942,
no,
but
he was born in 42.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm 87 years old.
Believe it. No. Operation Freshman followed with a planned glider-borne landing on a frozen lake near the plant. So essentially, a military glider is a extra plane that doesn't necessarily have an engine. So it's like a glider. It's attached to a bomber that is just sent to location, right? 2 gliders towed by bombers took off from Scotland. Let's see. One of the bombers crashed into a mountain, killing all 7 aboard. One of its glider cast off, but also crashed nearby, resulting in several casualties. The other bomber arrived, but was thrown slightly off course because the radar for ground to air was it had failed. The pilot decided to abort the operation and was returning to base when the glider broke off from the bomber. The glider crash landed near the site of the other glider, killing and injuring several more people. The Norwegians, who were waiting for the British to return, they were unable to reach the crash sites in time. The survivors were captured by the Gestapo, who were tortured and then executed. The unsuccessful raid alerted the Germans to Allied interest in their heavy water production, and so beefed up security.
Can I take a pause here and say how incredulous I am about that entire series of events that you've just described?
Are you going to call bullshit?
I'm calling bullshit, but there's so much of it that it's almost impossible to pick out a spot that seems like the rational place to poke. So
it's all true.
Okay, well, stranger than fiction, as they say.
I wanted to add this because all I can think of while reading it was just a giant oof.
And again, points to the fact that the Brits were so ecstatic that they got the right fucking phrase and then proceeded to crash everything.
And burn.
Everything.
The surviving Norwegian grouse team had a long wait in their mountain hideaway, subsisting on moss and lichen until they captured a reindeer just before Christmas.
A reindeer. Okay.
Yes, because reindeer are native to the Scandinavian region.
Right.
And just in case you were going to ask, no, that isn't bullshit either.
No,
I wanted to keep that in because that was fascinating.
Hooray for moss and lichen.
Yes. So the third operation and the final operation, because the last thing wasn't operated, it wasn't called anything.
I was gonna make a John joke.
Go for it.
Am I being a bad buffer right now, John?
No, and it's bumper, but no, you are being a good bumper.
Well, I'm a bad buffer, so
you're a bad mother buffer.
Yes, indeed.
Bad guy.
After they consumed the lichen, would we call them lycanthropes?
No, I pronounce it lichen, but it's spelled lichen.
It's lichen. It works.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I wasn't. Okay, cool. Thank you, John, for booing him because I wasn't sure if that was me just speaking inappropriate or incorrectly, or him being
It's a bad
joke.
pun.
It was.
When
it's
is
a
it
dad
never?
bad joke.
They're always bad puns.
It was better than the staph infection joke. I will give you that.
But don't condemn me with faint praise, John. Michael,
Anyway.
please continue slogging through.
So, Operation Gunnerside. British authorities, aware that the grouse team was still operational, probably because they weren't British, decided to mount another operation with them. On the night of the 16th of February, 1943, an additional 6 Norwegian commandos were dropped by parachute because they learned their lesson with the gliders. They landed successfully and found the grouse team after a few days of searching on cross-country skis. The combined team made final preparations for their assault, scheduled on the night of the 27th to the 28th of February.
Now, this is all a group of commandos that are from Norway that are being trained by the British and then dropped back into Norway.
Yes.
And the Brits are unfortunately killing all their own people and saving the Norwegians.
Yes.
All right.
After the failed freshman attempt, Germans had placed mines, floodlights, and additional guards around the plant.
Like you do.
Yes. Although the mines and lights remained in place, security at the plant had weakened over the winter because this was several months prior.
And see, all of this could have been averted if you send one communique to the Russians and say, hey, could you spare us a couple of those night witches? Because they seem to be a great deal more effective than any of the British attacks.
Seriously.
Plus, they have lights already installed, so they're basically just begging for the night witches to come hit them.
Right? A bridge spanning so essentially, because you can picture Norway as just having a bunch of fjords and just mountainous as fuck and everything. That is the case here. There is a bridge spanning a deep ravine, about 660 feet, above a nearby river. Okay. That was the road leading into the plant. That was fully guarded. Okay. The force decided to descend into the ravine, ford the icy river, and climb the steep hill on the far side. The winter river level was very low, and on the far side, where the ground leveled, they followed a single railway. Fuck, I was doing so well. Followed a single railway track straight into the plant without encountering any guards. So they were only guarding the bridge, not anywhere else around it. So that was bravo.
Now, if it's a winter river, you'd assume it would have been frozen, right? Or is this still running? That's innocuous. It really doesn't make any point. I'm just, curious because you'd think it'd make it a little easier. It was like if we're fording a river.
I think it was frozen. Yeah, I'm not 100% certain.
Not that it matters. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're good. So even before the original Operation Grouse, the Special Operations Executive had a Norwegian agent in the plant who had supplied detailed plans and schedules. Okay. The demolition party used this information to enter the main basement by a cable tunnel and through a window. The only person that they encountered in the plant was a Norwegian caretaker named Johansen. Johannesson? Johansen. Yes.
Yeah.
Who was very willing to
cut off your
cooperate with them. Johansen! Except for that was German, not, Norwegian, but whatever. He was very willing to cooperate with them. The saboteurs, yes. Sorry, I had to.
Every little victory needs to be celebrated, apparently.
Yes,
yeah.
the saboteurs then placed explosive charges on the heavy water electrolysis chambers, essentially the purification part of the factory,
Right.
and attach a fuse which allowed sufficient time for their escape. In an attempt to avoid reprisals, which actually will be important later on, a Thompson submachine gun was purposefully left behind to indicate that this was the work of British forces and not the local Norwegian resistance.
Oh, I thought they would have thrown up gang tags on the walls, like have the corpse holding up 9 fingers like this was Sons of Anarchy.
They actually left behind some tea and crumpets. And a top hat.
Milk and a saucer.
And they spray painted the Union Jack on the walls as they left.
Oh, that would have been.
They said Winston was here on the wall.
Yo, wankers. When the fuses were lit, the caretaker became worried about his spectacles, which were somewhere in the room. During the war, new eyeglasses were nearly impossible to obtain. A frantic search ensued, with the fuses counting down. With the last possible moment, the glasses were found, and everyone escaped the resulting detonation unharmed.
I'm calling bullshit on that.
Yeah.
Okay, I was about to say, Johansson, you are the caretaker here.
The only actual difference, the only deviation is that the caretaker became worried about his spectacles before the fuses were lit.
Okay, I was gonna say there is no way a bunch of these Norwegians are standing around going like, Johansson, we'll let you go look for your glasses, but this is going to blow.
Just be quick.
Where did I put those fuckers? I'm trying.
Yes, but if that did happen, it just the fuses weren't counting.
The difficulty of trying to find your glasses when you have fucked up vision and you don't have your glasses to help you.
Somebody help me find my glasses.
It's like the worst Mission Impossible intro sequence ever, just him fumbling around.
That's why I wanted to add it. I'm like, this is such, it's almost like a bad comedy, like Inglourious Bastards or something. I just had to make it more funny.
Where are my glasses?
Exactly.
Where are my glasses? Fuck it.
That's, anyway. As you could tell, the raid was considered successful. The entire inventory of heavy water produced during the German occupation was destroyed with equipment critical to the operation of the hydrolysis chambers. Although 3,000 German soldiers were dispatched to search the area for the commandos, all escaped. 5 skied 250 miles to Sweden, 2 proceeded to Oslo, which is the capital of Norway, and 4... one of whom we will see in a moment, remain in the region for further resistance work.
They skied 250 miles?
Yep.
That's a lot of mountain.
Mm-hmm. Cross country. That's kind of how they got there originally.
Jesus.
Or at least some of them did.
God bless those cross country. Now, I mean, the more important and salient point to bring up here is what would happen with all the people who needed ammonia at this point?
Shrugs into the camera. I don't know.
Anyway, continue.
So the attack halted production for several months, although it did not permanently damage the plant. It was repaired by April. Okay. The SOE, the Special Operations Executive, concluded that a repeat commando raid would be extremely difficult since German security was considerably improved. As you should.
You'd hope after 2 attacks, one of them considering a successful bombing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Almost as soon as production resumed, the U.S. Army Air Force, because the Air Force itself as a separate branch of the military was not established. I did double check that. Began a series of raids on Vermork. The plant was repeatedly attacked in November of 1943 through several bombing raids. Okay. The Germans, convinced that air raids would result in further serious damage, decided to abandon the plant and move its remaining stocks and critical components to Germany in 1944.
That was a very clever decision.
Maybe it would be easier if we were guarding it right on our home turf. The Norwegian underground reported that decision to British intelligence, who asked the Norwegians to keep watch. Okay. Now we start the actual thing that I was originally talking about, this really espionage-like, taken out of a movie, like, can't write this shit.
Okay.
Can't make this shit
Well,
up.
I am glad that we have survived thus far after all these bombing raids.
Yes, and you did find both of the lies that were leading up to it, so bravo.
Hooray.
Yes, so I called this section the sinking of the SF Hydro, which you could tell did happen. Okay, so on February 9th, 1944, the British learned by clandestine shortwave radio. I know, yes, I like how you both did the sarcastic clap for that. They learned by the radio that the heavy water would be transported under guard to Germany within a week or two. Not enough warning to prepare and drop in a squad of saboteurs. Knut, I'm just going to pronounce his name Knut. 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 Haukelid. Mostly Knut.
Mostly.
Yes.
I mostly come in Knut.
Knut. Haukelid.
I mean, I don't know. How did you kill it?
That's why he will be referenced here on out as Nut.
Bag.
Who spent the past year living on the land and organizing future military operations, was the only trained commando in the area except for the radio operator. Knut would have to destroy the heavy water alone with whatever amateur help he could assemble.
Mm-hmm.
He slipped into Ridiculousness. I probably am butchering that name.
How dirty.
The town. Yeah.
Let's just go ahead and assume that you're butchering every proper name.
Yes. And every word as well. He slipped into Ridiculousness at night and met secretly with the new chief engineer at Vermork, Alf Larsen. Alf.
After all these names, it's Alf Larsen. It's too plain for me.
But also, it's Alf, so apparently he's from outer space and eats cats.
It is spelled that way. ALF.
God bless him.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Alf agreed to help, and they discussed several possible operations. The heavy water would be transported back to Germany in several dozen drums. Knut originally thought that sneaking into the facility by himself was the only possible way. He mentioned being snuck into the plant in a large box disguised as shipping materials. Once entering the facility, he figured he could sneak in through air ducts and plant explosives on the drums the night before they were transported, setting them to detonate once they were in transport to limit civilian deaths.
So he was hoping to bust a nut.
Yeah.
Well, Shane, you know what they say. Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Sometimes you bust.
Upon hearing this, Alf, to quote, slapped me upside the head, Knut later wrote, and told me not to be a hero. Alf suggested that they instead carry out an attack on the transport, as that would be more sensible.
Just because I'm a child, I heard that slap me aside the head and nutted.
So he slapped his head and then he nut. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, God.
Knut and Alf.
I try not to nut and Alf if I can help it. Just whatever possible.
Oh, the low road has no exits.
Fuck. Knut and Alf, joined later by the fuck. I'm getting so riled up by the Knut and Alf.
Well, I understand. It's
okay.
You know,
It's
as
quite
long
a
as
lot.
there's no,
Yeah.
as long as
Nut?
you don't poutine your nut in Alf, then I think we're fine.
Oh, I nutted in my.
You nutted,
never mind.
okay.
I Alf in my nut.
Poutine.
Knut and Alf, joined later by the Vermork transport engineer, considered the various stages of the journey. So I pictured this when I was writing out the summary of this as like Ocean's 11 style, going over the whole thing. The drums of water would go by train from Ridiculousness to the head of Lake.
Come on.
It's a lake. Tinjo.
Okay.
Titicaca.
Sounds more Japanese than anyway. From there, the cars would be run onto a rail ferry to travel the length of the lake, proceeding by train again to the port where they would be loaded aboard a ship bound for Germany. Blowing up the trains would be difficult and bloody since they would be crowded with Norwegian passengers. Knut finally decided to... Knut. I did that only because he was drinking. He was taking a drink.
Almost got me.
Knut finally... Damn. Knut finally decided to sink the ferry, which also carried the passengers, into the 1,300-foot lake. The transport engineer agreed to dispatch the heavy water on a Sunday... Oh my god, stop! Stop laughing!
Why do we have to nut on a ferry?
Also, have you considered that maybe his name is cut and the N is silent?
What? You know what? For the rest of this, so we can maintain a level of decorum, he will be cut from now on. Just because fuck it, I don't even care anymore.
No,
I can't even handle saying
no. We
nut
gotta
anymore.
have nut on a ferry. Come on.
Well, you have to
okay.
finish a nut.
Damn it, Alf. The transport engineer agreed to arrange to dispatch the heavy water on a Sunday morning when the ferry was usually least crowded. The sabotage would certainly mean reprisals on the local population. Cut. Radio British intelligence.
It's nut.
Nut up, motherfucker.
Knut radioed British intelligence for permission, emphasizing that his engineer compatriots had questioned if the results were worth the reprisals. The British answered the same day, saying, "No, the corresponding loss of civilian life to the area is not worth the risk. Stand down." Knut decided to disregard the order and lied to his help, saying the British gave permission. Knut began to set his plans in motion. He put on workman's clothes, packed his Sten gun, which is a British SMG, submachine gun, into a violin case, identified which ferry would make the run on Sunday, February 20th, 1944, the appointed day, and rode it with one eye on his watch. The hydro was flat and barge-like, so essentially it has a lot more description on what it looks like. Just picture like a giant barge.
And let's also
it's a ferry.
Just use this as a time to assert the little-known fact: you should never trust a violinist.
True.
That's actually kind of funny, considering later on. So it reached the deepest part of the lake about 30 minutes after sailing, and took about 20 more minutes then to cross to shallower, less deep waters. Less
ShamWow.
deep waters. ShamWow.
Why you gotta be such a bitch?
Don't do it. Don't get me
it's
started.
Me having my stroke. Okay. Then cross to less deep waters, meaning Knut.
Oh
I
my
thought
God,
we were going to go to the Cold Stone Creamery. I want to get my nut.
Meaning Knut had a margin of about 20 minutes. He procured electric detonators and a clock, which, combined with sticks of plastic explosives sent to him by the British months prior, built an explosive that would cut a hole in the bottom of the ferry, causing the ferry to sink in less than 5 minutes. Much longer than that, and the ferry would be able to beach itself, defeating the whole point of the mission. Now, the execution of the plan. On Saturday, February 19th, Knut and a local compatriot, Rolf, slipped into Ridiculousness to look at their target. Okay, the town was crowded with German soldiers and SS police. An hour before midnight, Knut and Rolf went over to a nearby bridge and watched the freight train. I actually said that right. Usually I say freight train.
Hey,
from the bridge,
real quick, I have some advice for you. When you have a big success, just roll with it.
Roll with it?
Like you.
Why are we trying to nut and Rolf here?
When you say freight instead of fright, like internally be like, yeah, bro, I did it. But the moment you say that, now I'm just going to assume that you have to coach yourself.
I do. It's how I improve myself. I gotta whatever.
I'm just saying, own your success. Really nut in it.
I can't
Really
just-
Rolf it.
Grab it like a cock and
I
nut
alfed
it.
all over.
Yes.
What I'm saying is, I'm proud of you.
Now
Thanks.
stop
Collaborate.
From the bridge,
and listen.
the two men slipped to a back street where they met
Backstreet's
their
back.
driver.
All right.
I was hoping to get through
Fuck
that
you.
without
Nope,
that.
it's happening.
We've stayed mature through a lot of this, and I feel like we're on the
As of right now, I've already broken up once, and so at this point, all bets are off.
Stayed mature. Yeah, okay. They met their driver in a car. Knut had arranged with its owner to steal it in the name of the king and return on Sunday morning. They picked up Alf, who was prepared to escape Norway to avoid arrest after the work was done. He brought a suitcase of valuables and had come directly from a dinner party where he had heard a visiting concert violinist mention plans to leave on the morning ferry, and Alf had tried unsuccessfully to convince the musician to stay in the area one more day to sample its excellent skiing.
Now, I have one question.
Yes.
When you were naming this section, why in, Satan's holy name did you not call it Alf, Rolf, and Knut go to Rejuken?
It does have a ring to it.
I mean,
Honestly, no, that's a fair point. That sounds a lot more catchy than the sinking of the SF
the
Hydro,
taking of Pelham
so-
143.
Yeah, exactly.
Get him, Rolf.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. They picked up. Oh, yeah, I already mentioned that. So he had unsuccessfully tried to convince the musician to stay one more day. Alf then told the musician about the operation, and instead of convincing the musician to not go on the ferry, the musician decided to help instead, accompanying them the rest of the night before continuing onto the ferry the next day. The 5 people, Knut, Alf, Rolf, their driver, and the musician, drove to the lake well past the middle of the night. Rolf and the musician covered Knut while he...
God damn it. Continue, please.
Rolf and the musician covered Knut.
I mean, you have to give him a second after he nuts. You can't just tell him to continue on after. Good God. Let him recover for a minute.
Rolf and the musician covered Knut. God damn it. They covered the Norwegian commando while he went on board of the ferry to scout. The commando heard plenty of voices coming from the crew's quarters, and after listening to for some time, determined that a party was going on. Rolf and the musician joined the commando on the deck and eventually found a hatchway leading to the bilges. Before they got the hatch open, the Ferry Watchman had found them. Knut quickly told the... God damn it, what?
I think Shane...
I broke him there.
I think Shane thinks you're saying that to be incendiary. Like, the Ferry Watchman. Like
No, it also just makes me think the fairy godmother and the fairy watchman.
Oh, okay. I honestly thought you were going to say, like, this is how the porn
No,
starts.
it's a guy with a tutu and a wand just floating about, touching people on the head. It's very nice.
Knut quickly told the watchman that they were escaping the Gestapo and needed a place to hide. The watchman immediately, to quote from Knut's writings, the watchman immediately showed us the... Stop! I'm just gonna minimize the Zoom recording screen so I can't see you.
Yeah, you just need
guys.
to proceed.
Yeah, it's a good idea. You
I'm
lost me
just
around the
going-
bend, man. I'm sorry. I'm muting as best I can.
Oh my goodness. Okay. To quote Knut, the watchman immediately showed us the hatchway in the deck and showed us that they had several times before had illicit things with them on their trips. The musician now proved invaluable. He talked and talked with the watchman while Rolf and I flung our sacks down the deck and began to work.
I can't do it.
We're so close. We're so close. Just
Shane's impregnated me with this, and I can't stop.
stay with me. Just stay with me. We're almost done. Okay.
Why does Knut have to throw his sack on everybody? Why?
He didn't throw it on someone. He threw it down the deck, and he began to work. Okay. He's a busy man.
He's just slow stroking it.
He's a busy man. He doesn't have time for this. Oh my goodness. Wait. Did I? Oh, I accidentally. I don't know how to get it un.
And I know what you're thinking.
Well, I minimized it.
How can
Oh, well.
13-year-old boys have a podcast? But it's the internet.
It's the thing. It
Knut.
really happens. Oh, dear God.
Good
Okay.
Lord. Okay.
All
right.
Back to...
They finished setting up the explosives around 4 a.m. The musician had convinced the watchman by then that the escapees he had sheltered needed to return to Ridiculousness to collect their possessions. Knut considered warning their benefactor, but decided that might endanger the mission, and only thanked him and shook his hand.
Wow. That's a
Yeah.
pretty shitty thing to do.
Mm-hmm. 10 minutes from the ferry station, Knut and Alf left the car to ski to Kongsberg, 40 miles away from the lake, where they would catch a train for the first leg of their escape to Sweden. Rolf carried a report for London to the clandestine radio. The driver returned the stolen car and he strolled home, which is exactly, to quote what Wikipedia said, he strolled home apparently.
Well, it's important. Question.
Exactly.
Is them
Yes.
not telling the musician that the bomb was in play bullshit?
Wow. Yeah. They didn't tell the musician.
You had a bit of a little wince there when I pointed out that it was shitty, so I could smell you.
Oh, that's fair. I mean, there was a fourth person, but it was just literally, according to Wikipedia, it was some nondescript Ridiculousness.
Okay,
man.
I was like,
the musician was not told about it. There was a musician,
Yeah.
but he was not told about the operation at all.
All right.
Mm-hmm. So the driver strolled home and the Ridiculousness man strolled home. They both
All right.
left. At Knut's suggestion, the Norsk hydro transport engineer, who was part of the setup but not part of the heist itself, had arranged a foolproof alibi. Over the weekend, doctors at the local hospital operated on him for appendicitis. No questions asked.
Wrong.
So, the aftermath. With 53 people aboard, including the concert violinist, the hydro sailed on time. 45 minutes into the crossing, Knut's charge of plastic explosive bolt blew the hull.
We made it through. Congratulations, gentlemen.
Yes. The captain felt the explosion rather than heard it. And
I spoke too soon. Yes, I'm sorry.
And though the lake was so the captain felt the explosion rather than heard it, and though the lake was landlocked, he thought they might have been torpedoed. The bow swamped first, as Knut had intended, while the passengers and crew struggled to release the lifeboat. I worded that wrong. While the passengers and crew struggled to release the lifeboats, the freight cars with their drums of heavy water broke loose, rolled overboard, and sank like stones. Of passengers and crew, 26 had drowned.
Oh.
The concert violinist slipped high and dry into a lifeboat. When his violin case floated by, someone was kind enough to fish it out for him. The loss of the heavy water was seen as the main factor in the failure of Germany to achieve a self-sustaining to achieve a self-sustaining atomic reactor and also bomb before the war ended. And that is my story, gentlemen.
Well,
Fair.
sometimes you feel like a nut, indeed.
And sometimes
Drop
your sack.
You do? Onto the deck, down the deck.
Stroke your way to brilliance.
Unfortunately, I know we missed a couple lies there because I was giggling like a small child.
But Shane, you were a hound.
Yeah, you got 3 of 5. Like, I think that's a new record. That has to be a new record.
Definitely
Well,
ups
I
the
mean,
average. Yeah.
John helped out
Yes.
with the Einstein bit, so I think
If raising an eyebrow helps, then
True,
yes,
you-
yes.
Yes.
That's true. I would say that you both get credit for that lie. If we were ever keeping track or score, like, I would say that John should deserve a
Well,
point
just
in that
like
case
Whose
as well.
Line, as we recall. The points are
Exactly, the points don't
meaningless
matter.
and nobody wins. We all
Mhm.
lose.
Now, please,
Yes.
what were the remaining that we missed?
So, and I was actually surprised Shane didn't catch this because I saw the hesitation. Knut originally thought that sneaking into the facility by himself was the only possible way. He mentioned being snuck into the plant in a large box disguised as shipping materials. Once entering the facility, he figured he could sneak in through the air ducts and plant explosives on the drums the night before they were transported. Essentially, I was thinking like Metal Gear Solid, like that sort of style. He actually, in his diary or
His
report or
diarrhea
whatever,
report?
He wrote a one-man attack on Vermork. He considered it out of the question. The only practical possibility, therefore, was to carry out an attack on the transport in one way or another. So instead of even thinking about doing like an attack on the plant itself, they immediately were like, no, that's not going to work.
Kudos, well done.
Yes, and the second lie, the British said, no, the corresponding loss of life to the area is not worth the risk to stand down, and he ignored that order. That was not the case. They actually said, matter has been considered. It is thought very important that the heavy water shall be destroyed. Hope it can be done without too disastrous results. Send our best wishes for success in the work. Greetings.
I think, that should have set off some more alarms since we're contemplating an action during war when people are dying left and right. You wouldn't imagine they'd quibble too much over, 50 people. So, yeah. Well done, though. Because it did not stand out as we were doing it. But in retrospect, it makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
we've done it. We've survived the nut.
Barely.
Yes.
With our decks intact.
No, well,
They
there's
sank
many
into the
many a
lake.
sack being dropped on our decks, and
that
so
is true.
most
And they
certainly.
sink like stones.
Now, I do believe that we have more readings to do.
We do. I mean, it's important that we always bring our happy endings after the nut, and so we are going to give you what you've all been craving, the next installment in our ongoing saga of My Immortal.
Yeah, you'll see when you actually open the file, the document.
You've exuberantly
that
marked start. Yes.
Yes.
Well, no, that was actually John.
Oh.
Actually,
No,
no,
okay.
I was going to say you probably noticed that there's like a good 13 pages or something like that added on.
It does look a lot longer than it did last week.
Yes, I was bored today because I didn't work and I didn't want to do anything productive, so I pretended that this was productivity.
Well, I mean, at the rate at which we are getting these chronicled currently, I'd say we're going to catch up pretty quickly. So best to stay ahead of it, it seems.
True.
Yes, I predict that this will probably last us another, because there are a couple of chapters in here that are like episodes in themselves. So I mean like endings to episodes in themselves. So I predict that this will still last us through the summer.
Okay.
So,
Well, then allow me to give our brief recap. Previously on My Immortal, we noticed that after their torrid, lusty affair in the Forbidden Forest, that we stumbled across Ebony and her dear lover Draco being apprehended by, of course, Dumbledore, who took them back to be heavily remonstrated by McGonagall and Professor Snape, before they retreated back to the west wing of Hogwarts and hung out in the Slytherin bathroom for a moment before he slithered into her loins. But prior to that, Miss Ebony discovered another character in this wonderful little melodrama, Vampire Potter, who she has also become somewhat enamored of based on purely his aesthetic and how dreamily gothic he is. And now, in the midst of a lusty and romantic entanglement, Miss Ebony discovered that Mr. Draco Malfoy has a tattoo which says vampire, which caused her to abruptly end their coitus, run down the hallway, and accost Vampire Potter whilst he was meeting with Professor Snape. And the exact line we left on, Michael, if you'd care to reprise your glorious line.
Vampire Potter, you motherfucker!
And now we have a moment where John tries to give us the clap. You know, if you didn't slam that goddamn beer down, you wouldn't have to take a piss break in the middle of all of our episodes,
been
John.
2 hours.
What have you got, like a baby bladder? I'm drinking fluids over here. I don't need to milk.
Hydro of water and a beer.
Well, I know you don't
over.
have anything to do but drink through the entirety of these fucking
That's
things.
48 ounces of liquid, my man.
All right, go piss, you juvenile delinquent.
Goodness gracious.
Was he?
Is he wearing
I was like, was he wearing children's shorts?
I thought he wasn't wearing pants.
that's...
I'm like, you can't. I understand not wearing pants to these, online recording sessions and all, but like
Those were shorts that
if you're doing
like
that-
little boys used to wear in the early '80s. It's just that they're about this big.
Yeah, I'm picturing like basketball from like the 50s, where it's like it was essentially like what do they call them?
John's wearing booty shorts.
Yeah, booty
shorty
shorts.
shorts.
Yeah, Daisy Dukes. That's what I was
The
thinking
good old
of.
cutoffs. Yes. So, John, why are you wearing little child shorts?
Or no pants for
You're
that
wearing
matter.
them baby booty shorts.
No, nobody wants to see that.
Why are you trying to Sharon Stone me here?
Yeah, what are those chubbies? Are you like a bro or something?
No,
like,
I had these last summer.
that doesn't answer my question.
We didn't spend a lot of time at a pool party with you last summer, John. I don't know what you did last summer.
I'm surprised you aren't wearing like a popped collar and all that shit. The only people I knew that wore pants that were that size, that were that pant length, were bros, and they were called chubbies.
Oof.
I think.
No, that's just what you like to choke down.
No, chonies. That's what I like to
You choke down chonies on chubbies?
Because I would always call them chonies, and they're like, no, they're chubbies. I'm like, they look like
you got a
chonies.
fat
I stand by
domino.
my statement.
Well, now that I've fumble-fisted us through and John cut us off in mid-nut. Mid-nut in the
That poor
Garden
Alf.
of Good and Evil. Are we ready for the snappies here?
We don't need
I'm
to
giving
snap.
you a snap,
I'm gonna
motherfucker.
snap too, bitch.
All right, that's fine. I'm not going to snap, just in principle.
3, 2, 1.
Click.
And now, after Shorty Shorts Junction, we bring you My Immortal, Chapter 8. Everyone in the class stared at me, and then Draco came into the room, even though he was naked, and Can I just take a moment and point out the sentence structures for these long bits of dialogue are just ungodly. So I will do the Michael and congratulate myself for the fact that I have managed to give a semblance of order to these.
You
thus
are
far.
a champ.
Honestly, you should congratulate yourself. All I will say is it gets
I'm
worse.
looking forward to it. So I'm going to start this over so I don't fumble fuck the first sentence. And
That's fine. I will. For future cut, that
Yes.
will not be in the full length
Bless you.
version.
Everyone in the class stared at me. And then Draco came into the room, even though he was naked, and started begging me to take him back.
Abby, it's not what you think.
He screamed, sadly. My friend Luddy, Mary Smith, smiled at me understatedly. She flipped her long waist-length gothic black hair and opened her crimson eyes like blood that she was wearing contact lenses on. She had pale white skin that she was wearing white makeup on. Hermione was kidnapped when she was born. Her real parents are vampires, and one of them is a witch, but Voldemort killed her mother and her father committed suicide because he was depressed about it. She still has nightmares about it, and she's very haunted and depressed. It also turns out her real last name is Smith and not Granger. Since she has converted to Satanism, she is in Slytherin now. not Gryffindor, which just so happens to have been a needless parenthetical.
What is it that you desire, you ridiculous dimwit?
Snape demanded angrily in his cold voice, but I ignored him.
Vampire, I can't believe you cheated on me with Draco!
I shouted at him. Everyone gasped.
You can read that, Shane.
Parenthetical.
It
I
is.
was like, I think this is Draco, but it's not clear.
That was me. That is an author's note.
Okay, so it's not dialogue.
No. We can keep this in as well. Because
How
it was confusing.
wonderful. So the writing is so trash that it can't even really indicate when people are speaking.
I feel like that we've finally hit the point where like the prologue of this is done and we are officially into the meat where things start to get super, super dicey.
Oh, so tasty. All right, so I shouted at him. Everyone gasped. I don't know why Ebony was so mad at me. I had went out with Vampire. I'm bi, and so is Ebony, for a while. But then he broke my heart. He dumped me because he liked Brittany, a stupid preppy fucker. We were just good friends now. He had gone through horrible problems, and now he was gothic. Parenthetical. Haha, like I would hang out with a prep.
But I'm not going out with Draco anymore,
said Vampire.
Yeah, fucking right. Fuck off, you bastard.
I screamed. I ran out of the room and into the Forbidden Forest, where I had lost my virility to Draco, and then I started to bust into tears. End chapter 8.
So instead of, looking for deeper meaning in here, I think I'm going to lean on our literary master, Shane, just to decipher what the fuck happened.
Well, in affairs of the heart, the lines of battle are never quite clear, and the rules of engagement are never specified beforehand. So unfortunately, it seems like this is not going to have any sort of metaphysical underpinnings that I can put my finger in. So we've created a scenario now where she's somehow established a relationship with Vampire and Ebony after one conversation because, he made her spill her blood that she was drinking with her Cocoa Pebbles or her, Fruity Flakes or whatever the hell.
Count Chocula, remember
Oh,
Vampire
I'm
Theme?
sorry. Yes, my brain.
Yes,
how horrible. I didn't retain that. So they're apparently just in a relationship from having a conversation in the dining hall. That's a thing now.
Okay.
I guess when you're 17, anything goes. But
He was pretty hot,
I mean, granted.
like Joel
But
Madden. Only
So
British.
what was this? What is this backstory with Hermione?
Oh,
So yeah, now Hermione's.
a vampire as well, who was kidnapped at birth, but her real mother
So
was
is-
a witch and was killed by
is
Voldemort.
Is
and-
she supposed to be this Bloody Mary Smith?
Yes.
Okay, and
Okay.
it's Bloody Mary
Yes.
Smith. Yes,
B Luddy, yeah.
Bloody.
Indeed, be Luddy. I like that. I think
Be-
I'm going to go with that better.
Be
Be
Luddy.
Luddy. Yeah, be Luddy, Mary Smith. Apparently she was just kidnapped right after birth, and
I like that she gives the B Luddy name, but then doesn't explain that the name was changed, but just expects you to follow this really thin line.
Also, her last name is Smith and not Granger.
which
Which is
just-
being on a tangent and being like, oh shit, this has nothing to do with the other thing. What's a throwaway that can connect it? Got it. Okay, cool.
apropos of nothing. Yes.
So, in interest of Michael, do you think that one more chapter would see us out,
I mean,
Michael, or what do you think?
Let's see. There is a
Because I'm still going spoiler free as much as I can, as far as deep topics.
chapter 10 is also. Let's see here. Let me.
Remember,
No,
you have to edit this.
No, I'm cool with going to chapter 10 because chapter 10 has a good cliffhanger.
All right,
Okay.
cool.
Well, then we'll skip our. Good God, we're gonna need to. We'll just skip over this random, attempts to break this bullshit down and dive in.
No, I
So,
mean we did. I would consider that good enough. Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't, but all right. Fuck me.
Yeah.
Chapter 9. I was so mad and sad. I couldn't believe Draco for cheating on me. I began to cry against the tree where I did it with Draco. Then, all of a suddenly, an horrible man with red eyes and no nose and everything started flying towards me on a broomstick. He didn't have a nose, basically like Voldemort in the movie, and he was wearing all black, but it was obvious he wasn't Gothic. It was Voldemort.
No!
I shouted in a scared voice, but then Voldemort shouted,
Imperious!
and I couldn't run away.
Crookshanks!
Parenthetical. Yes, I know that's Hermione's cat, and not the Crucio spell.
I will say if it's in italics, that is my own notes, so you don't need to read those.
Well, motherfuck, Michael. I mean,
I
give
thought
me
that
a
was-
little bit.
I thought
There's
that was
no
obvious.
legend in here, so... Oh, yeah, it's super obvious.
Yes,
Oh
just
my
because
God.
Amongst
you
all
put
the
it in
nonsense.
italics.
I thought
Yes.
that was. I'm sorry. Okay. So
Okay, so
anytime
yeah.
there is just italics,
That
it is
means
my own notes.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
He imperioused her, Michael. He didn't say Crucio.
No, Evan, he said Crookshanks.
Crookshanks.
Yeah, that's Hermione's cat.
I'm well aware of this, Michael. That is supposed to
And-
be her spell retort.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Here we go.
Just keep reading. You'll understand.
I shouted at him. Voldemort fell off his broom and started to scream. I felt bad for him, even though I'm a sadist, so I stopped.
Ebony, thou must kill Vampire Potter.
Voldemort yelled. I thought about Vampire and his sexa eyes and his gothic black hair and how his face looks just like Joel Madden. I remembered that Draco had said that I didn't understand, so I thought, what if Draco went out with Vampire before I went out with him, and they broke up?
No, Voldemort.
I shouted back. Voldemort gave me a gun.
No, please.
I begged.
Thou must. If thou dost not, then I shall kill thy beloved Draco.
He yelled.
How did you know?
I asked in a surprised way. Voldemort got a dude, you are so retarded look on his face.
I have telekinesis,
He answered cruelly.
and if you doth not kill Vampire, then thou know what will happen to Draco.
He shouted. Then he flew away angrily on his broomstick. I was so scared and mad, and I didn't know what to do. Suddenly, Draco came into the woods.
Draco, hi.
I said.
Hi.
He said back, but his face was all sad. He was wearing white foundation and messy eyeliner, kind of like a pentagram, parenthetical, get it, between Joel Madden and Gerard Way.
Are you okay?
I asked.
No.
Draco answered.
I'm sorry I got all mad at you, but I thought you cheated on me.
I expelled.
That's okay.
He said, all depressed, and we went back into Hogwarts together, making out.
Jesus Christ.
So you understand now why I said it wasn't the Crucio spell, because it was making it sound like he was in pain and all that.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
Context is very helpful. In fact, context is king.
Yes.
I'm very fond of the Voldemort there, John. Well done.
Yeah.
The-
I couldn't-
An effete Southern Voldemort. It just never occurred to me.
Michael
beautiful.
has given me so much work to do that I am very paranoid that I'm going to forget the voices that I give to every character because of how much little effort I put into things.
I honestly have thought about that while writing these, and so I've tried making it like I almost thought like, and you can also edit it too if you want to be like, Dumbledore sounds like Gandalf, Voldemort sounds like Southern. Like you can
No,
do that
I
if
think-
you want.
I think
I know
it'll
that's
just-
effort, but
I think it'll be better for everyone involved, even if I do forget, just to
to break the continuity.
That's fine. As
I
long
just-
as long as you keep Draco, I think that's fine. Draco and Vampire, considering
Draco.
they're the most. Yeah,
Draco is just hard planted.
good.
I like that now John's casting choices for this are now Draco is Billy Quizboy and
Yep.
Arseface, and Voldemort is the gentleman from Family Guy who worries about his cats.
That only means the conveyance.
Oh no, no one ate any of the Oreos.
Yeah, Dumbledore is Gandalf, and then Vampire Potter is
You affecting a British accent.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's like a royal British accent.
Oh, the royal.
Like I
we.
imagine him in like a curled white wig.
Okay. Fair.
All right,
Fair enough.
so we are now moving on to chapter 10.
Mm-hmm. And also,
All right.
trigger warning. Even though I didn't put a trigger warning last episode, wrist slitting and suicide. So
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you said that so candidly.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, if you have any taste, you should have just tuned out before we started. But the trigger warning, lack of taste.
Speaking of which, not to derail this and give you more work when you get to that eventual big edit, our numbers for downloads dramatically jumped over the past couple weeks, and so I'm enjoying our nice little rise. But we had 65 on one day
Oh, well,
to talk shop.
thank
so.
you.
Yes. All right, here we are. Chapter 10. Trigger warning, wrist slitting, and suicide. I was really scared about Voldemort all day. I was even upset. Went to rehearsals with my gothic metal band, Bloody Gothic Rose 666. I'm the lead singer of it, and I play guitar. People say that we sound like a cross between GC, Slipknot, and MCR. Otherwise known as fucking cats vomiting on top of a razor blade.
Read the script.
Sorry. No editorializing, Shane. Bad narrator.
What are you? What are you, a fucking Lee Jordan during a Quidditch match?
I'm more like Dobby. Mustn't say editorializing comments.
Shane, we're doing something serious right now, and I want you to fucking take it seriously.
You mustn't fuck Vampire Potter. All right, back in this shit. People say that we sound like a cross between GC, Slipknot, and MCR. The other people in the band are Bloody Mary, Vampire, Draco, Ron, although we call him Diablo now. He was black hair now with blue streaks in it. And Hargrid. Only today, Draco and Vampire were depressed, so they weren't coming, and we wrote songs instead. I knew Draco was probably slitting his wrists. He wouldn't die because he's a vampire too, and the only way you can kill a vampire is with a CROSS, parenthetical, there's no way I'm writing that, or a stake, spelled STEAK. And Vampire was probably watching a depressing movie like The Corpse Bride. I put on a black leather shirt that showed off my boobs, and tiny matching miniskirt that said Simple Plan on the butt. You might think I'm a slut, but I'm really not. We were singing a cover of Helena, and at the end of the song, I suddenly bust into tears.
Evan, are you okay?
Bloody Mary asked in a concerted voice.
What the fuck do you think?
I asked angrily, and then I said,
Well, Voldemort came and the fucking bastard told me to fucking kill Harry. But I don't want to kill him because he's really nice, even if he did go out with Draco. But if I don't kill Harry, then Voldemort will fucking kill Draco.
I burst into tears. Suddenly, Draco jumped out from behind a wall.
Why didn't you fucking tell me? How could you fucking potion like a bitch?
Draco shouted. I started to cry and cry. Draco started to cry too, all sensitive. Then he ran out crying. We practiced for 1 more hour. Then suddenly, Dumbledore walked in angrily. His eyes were all fiery, and I knew this time it wasn't because he had a headache.
What have you done?
He started to cry, wisely.
Ebony Draco has been found in his room. He committed suicide by slitting his wrists.
But, of course, you can't die from that, because there was no CROSS or medium rare Outback Steakhouse involved.
And that is the end of Chapter 10.
Oh, Michael, I both love that you've done this to us, and, what have we done to each other?
What will
we do to each other?
I feel like this is buried far or deep enough into this episode that I will share this story, and if it pleases my masters, then we can
If it please the court.
depart on this. So, Shane, remember when I went and played guitar for another band for a few months before they tragically broke up in just a plume of fire?
I have a very vivid recollection of this, as a matter of
I even
stern
remember
fact.
this.
So I would vent to a lot of people about how these people would practice comparatively to how our band practices, because even back when we were young guns, like we were very not methodical, but we were organized.
We're pretty dedicated during practice.
Yeah,
for the most
we're
part.
not there to waste each other's time. We just get in, we get out, tell some dick jokes, be problematic without anyone recording us.
And some of us are irritable bastards, and so it makes the matter much faster when we start pushing things along.
Sam.
Oof.
She's barely coherent enough to realize she's present.
So it's so it's like going it's like being in a relationship with one woman to another. So at these band practices, it was drastically different, where I feel like it was 70% like them trying to just do basic human things like finding a power source, and then the rest of it was like fumble fucking through a couple songs.
Okay.
And so there is a member of that band who is going to be joining us probably pretty shortly. He's been sending the synth tracks over. Remember, I showed you a couple
You
of those?
did? Well, I mean, you told me about them. I've never heard them.
Oh, I thought I forwarded them. I'll forward them over. Anyway, So he was kind of the organizer of that group. Like, he's the one who kept everyone on track. And the bass player was notoriously bad for tangenting and
powdering his nose?
Yeah. And I will never forget one of the band practices that I had where this guy snapped the bass player to the point where the bass player broke down into tears. Literally broke down into tears, and practice screeched to a halt as the other guitarist or whatever the fuck, once the bass player was like, hey, I had to say these things to get you back on track. Sorry that I hurt your feelings. And the bass player, through legitimate tears, had to go take a walk outside for 10 minutes and then come back in, and everyone kind of gave him the whole pat on the back, are you ready to play your 3 notes now, little guy?
Oh
I will
God.
never forget that. It was so fucking great because this guy, the bass player, he thinks he is the shit. That's the air that he puts apart. So just to see him get broken down by someone essentially snapping me and hey, I have things to do with the rest of my night, so I don't know about you, but I just want to fucking play. And that being enough to break him down to a fundamental fetal position.
Jesus.
So this is all
that's what that
credible,
chapter
what's
reminded me
happening
of.
in this
Yeah.
book. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I'm picking up on what you're putting down.
That's all that came to mind. I was like, yeah, I know a Draco.
Well, I mean, we're not going to find any sense here. I think that we've established that very firmly now.
I know that Michael's long goal is for literary analysis, but I feel at this point it's more just embracing the madness and taking it as taking it seriously, but I don't think we can analyze it at this point.
There's only so far you can stretch some shit.
Yes.
I'll just say that.
I tried real hard to swing at it last week, but
And if I were to say that we needed to do literary analysis for every single chapter, then I became the very thing that I railed against in high school when I told the teacher that we don't need to analyze every single chapter of Huckleberry Finn for
look
slavey
out for this
theory.
rebel.
Yeah, no, I'm just this is no. So
as they say, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar.
yeah, if there's stuff to talk about, cool. If there's not, then there's not.
John, you were saying?
Oh, I forget. I'm trying to recollect. I'm trying to digest everything that we just went through, but it's a lot. I feel like she's and thenning herself into oblivion, which is something that I accuse people of a lot. But this is almost just the definition of it.
Yeah, the asides are getting to be a bit cumbersome to get around if you're really trying to pay attention or read. But we're give credit where it's due. This is not as vapid as it could have been yet.
It'll get there, I think.
Oh yeah,
and you guys can. I know, like, you want to do cold reads and stuff, but if you want, you can also. That's why I'm preparing it ahead of time.
No,
cold
reads are the only way that I can do this.
Fair enough.
That's why B. Luddy and Voldemort essentially have the same voice now. So
okay.
I did think that, but I wasn't going to question it.
Well, I mean,
I wanted to give her like a thug voice, but I couldn't actualize it in time.
Girl!
That's fine. You can do it next time.
Are you okay?
You can pull, Minnie from Hateful Eight. Just go with that. She's already got the southern affectation down, so just add in a little sass from time to time.
Yeah. We'll make it work. I'm fine with this. This is okay. Cool.
Well, I mean, technically, though, if you think about her having a Voldemort affectation, she was stolen by him.
Oh,
in this storyline, she is the progeny of Voldemort at this point. So,
and that's the vocal canon. So,
yep, we do become our parents.
Timbre canon.
It's Tampon Canyon.
And if only we could name the episode that for just that.
I think we can. Tampon Canyon will probably be our new band name. So we'll continue that. We'll go along here. But
I like it.
Well, gentlemen, I feel like that brings this episode to a really wonderful close. And, now that we're at a fine jumping off point where I would typically talk about our social pages, I really don't see what the point is any longer, considering that we max out at 7 to 8 likes and no interaction on Facebook or Twitter. I think we've pretty much established after 40 episodes that my efforts are futile and absolutely pointless. So I don't know who I'm speaking to. If I'm trying to point people towards the social page, it makes no difference.
How about we do this approach where we skip it for a little bit. Everyone agrees that the masks was a good idea.
Indeed, yes.
You said that listenership has actually increased a little bit. Mm-hmm. Maybe just ride the wave for a bit before we start plugging again.
Yeah, because at this point,
honestly, if people want to get in contact, it's 2020. It's not entirely difficult to do your precursory searches, if you will. So.
I think as I'm looking at it, if the goal for our social networking pages, and this is an online, offline conversation, but, so we'll decide whether we want to edit this just for, making more work for Michael since we're 2 hours in. If we're trying to get more listeners, and, obviously I'm not doing a good job at that considering the interactions that we are getting. Although, if we want to keep this in, we did one high point is that Aleister Crowley's official Instagram page did our LaVeyan Satanism image only, almost a year after I put it up. So that's pretty heavy.
He's
we
got
a heavy hitter.
He's got a big inbox, man.
I agree, but so I mean, that's a highlight. We have officially intrigued the Aleister Crowley beyond the grave. We've managed to get him, but God bless him. If we can find a way for him to somehow come out with a, hologram or something and endorse us somewhere with some chicken blood, that would be fantastic.
Sign me up.
Or goat's blood, maybe.
I'm indifferent. Either or.
Oh, is that how you're introducing yourself now?
And I'm Michael.
All right, so long story short, too goddamn late. If you want to find us on social networks, please do, because you've done a really shitty job at it thus far.
We've given you a map, and you have maintained to be like Shane and get lost. So.
Yes. I have no sense of direction, apparently. It's a terrible thing. But
if you want to find us, send up a smoke signal, and we'll eventually answer it.
Yes. I'll probably see that before I will see something on Instagram. But in any event, since that I'm just going to bypass that entirely, but I felt that I needed to give you a little preamble as to why I'm saying who gives a flying fuck what our socials are. But if you like what you're hearing here after I've just lambasted you for 5 minutes, go find us on your preferred podcast provider app. And, don't like us there, like you've been doing as well. If you're going to avoid us, make it a blanket sweep like you've been doing.
And if it's on YouTube, make sure to smash that dislike button.
Yes, please. Just downvote us on Reddit. Just consider us poutine right now.
Oh my god.
And don't worry, I'll eat it up.
Indeed. John will slurp it, snarf it like a little pig.
I'm hearing a fade out here.
Yes, you're working your way towards it. So I believe that's going to wrap this up in a big hateful ribbon. So, for the Jeremy Corbell podcast.
God damn it.
For the Disinformed podcast, I'm Shane.
I'm John.
And I'm Michael.
And you can all go fuck yourselves if you can't fucking find the will to hit a like button. Oh, thank you for coming, you miserable fucks. Don't worry, we'll slurp it up with a bit of shit and a little smidgen of piss.
Don't forget the Velveeta.
Titty, titty, titty!
Can you imagine that? Tits on a pig.